Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is July the 8th, 2026. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day to ya. Hopefully, you humped and didn't get humped. Unless that's what you're into, then by all means, have at it. But no, my day was good. It was solid. It was long. It has been a busy day. But, overall, it was nice to get some sleep. I will say, I think just with the pacing of the day, I'm just as tired as I was last night, I feel. But I at least, I followed my protocol. I went like pretty much right to sleep right at midnight. So, did the best I could for myself, right? Put my best foot forward, you could say. But we got up, got ourselves together, got to work, and I knew today was going to be a bit more dynamic work wise, just because we're doing a lot of construction. I've mentioned it before, but I felt like today was like, I guess, the biggest day for it or something to that effect. Essentially, like the lines were going to be down, and like upstairs, they were going to have to be moving things around a lot differently. So really, it didn't directly affect me, but I had a feeling it would probably mean a little bit more work, which I was happy about because like I've been going home like up to an hour early this week, so that's not really great for me. And in a way, I was right. I did get a little bit more work, but then it dried up around two. But then a situation happened where it was like dead for another department. So a random guy just came over, and like this is a thing that's happened before, where like they just like, hey, there's no work, so I want to work over here, and it's like, did no supervisors telling you to do this? Maybe they did one point once or whatever. It's like a coyote coming over and saying, hey, I need scraps, and like they want to eat your scraps. But I mean, these guys are generally cool. I get it, So essentially, the person who normally comes to replace me, he's like, oh, I'll just go upstairs. And then I was like, okay. And then I was like, I'm hanging out down here because there's no way you're catching me upstairs unless I absolutely have to. There's work, I'm gonna be here to supervise it, whatever, I don't care. So that was more or less my vibe. But we cleared out the work. I go upstairs, I see there's no putbacks, no nothing. So I'm like, despite how busy it was, we really did handle it well for the whole day, so that was good. So I proceeded to leave maybe about like 20 minutes early today. So that was good. We'll take that. Post work, I went to the gym. Gym was solid, a solid effort. I don't know. At the same time, though, I feel like I'm not like going as hard. I don't know. Like I'm not going the hardest. I'm not getting the sweatiest. But overall, it was a good exercise. I feel like I got some good movements in. So we got in and out there. Then I got out of work, got out of the gym, and I knew my day was not over yet. As much as I usually like to classically kind of wrap it up there, do my stretch, do my research, yada yada yada. That's not how it went down. I came home and I was like, I want to get my laundry done. I just want to knock it out. We're halfway through the week, and I can just get it done now, and then I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week. Wouldn't that be nice? So we rerun it, and laundry pretty much goes without a hitch. But usually it took the amount of time it took, and I'm going back and forth all that. But we get it done. I get it home. I fold everything up. Another day of not stretching. I really gotta get back on that. I know that I don't want that to come back and bite me in the ass. But I've just been like, ugh, I just don't want to spare the extra few minutes, which is really stupid. But anyway, knock on wood, whatever. I'll charge myself to get back on that. But had my snack after I folded up everything. I will say I did have some yogurt. And then also at work, I had a little snack. I had a little like those fruit juicy gummies. They were yummy. So yeah, I've been doing a little snacking. But here we are. We're ready to yap about some news. Want to hit some stories, hit some updates. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into the news. Oh. Oh. I will say a highlight of the day, despite it being so busy, despite myself, being pretty worn out, I'm tired. Um, for the most part, if I were to give it a percentage, I would say like 98% like a pain-free day, which is nice considering like most of my days lately have had at least some level of pain that I really had to like, grit through to some extent. It can be a bit distracting at times. So it was nice to really kind of like heat check myself throughout the day and generally feel good. Like I'm like, all right, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any, anything aching or extra right now. That was at a pretty good minimum. Now, knock on wood, hopefully it stays that way. But I've really I take these times to try to remind myself that like being like feeling normal is not a promised thing. I've been blessed that I've gone as many years as I have without having any kind of big major issue medically. Sounds like a thing or two here or there, whatever. But those things would even clear out over time, and that would be a mystery. But I would remember those feelings where I was like, "Hey, I'm not thinking about that pain today. I'm not dealing with this or that issue, that ailment, whatever." And like, it really does bring you a certain kind of like solace, and it's like I'm so thankful to just feel normal right now. So I wanted to take time, I guess, to appreciate that on the pod. Anyway, ooh, all right. So starting off with an update on Graham Plattner, that whole fucking situation from NBC News. Graham Plattner drops out of Senate race, allowing Maine Democrats to replace him. Graham Plattner announced Wednesday he's ending his Senate campaign, capping a chaotic few days of uncertainty and Democratic infighting, and leaving the party without a candidate in the vitally important Maine race this fall. The rest details we more or less rehashed this. Talked about this literally just yesterday. I have heard. I don't have like a list of the candidates. Who are potentially going to be vying for his spot. But I am hoping that another progressive style person does fill that void to take on the Republican candidate. Hopefully they get a win there. But yeah, definitely the right call from Plattner. I'd say a day or two or whatever too soon or too late in terms of like, bowing out, but hey, at least you're getting out of the way. Not trying to forestall this process, not trying to be like, no, I can still fix this. Like, no, brother, you maybe, I think you need to face some music. You know what I mean? He's on that Stillwell shit, Eric Stillwell. That's a reference call back to another story we've covered recently. But anyway, we're gonna move on. I don't want to dwell on this too long. Going to China. Let's see, from the Associated Press. 21 who died in landslide in northwest China were forestry workers. A landslide buried and killed 21 forestry workers walking through a remote valley in the mountains of northwestern China, state media reported Wednesday after rescue operations ended. 12 others survived, 7 with minor injuries, state broadcaster CCTV said. The team was heading out to clear and maintain forest land when the landslide struck shortly before 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Footage on CCTV showed a swath of denuded mountainside that ended in the valley. The exposed earth contrasted sharply with the green, heavily forested slopes that angled up steeply on both sides under mostly clear skies. The landslide was about 40 meters or 130 feet wide and covered roughly 5,400 square meters. Longnan City natural resources official Yang Zhaoyan said at a news conference. Excavators were used to help clear the accumulated debris, which was about 8 to 10 meters, or 26 to 33 feet deep. A preliminary assessment indicated the landslide was caused by a combination of the steep terrain, erosion, and the area's geological structure. The material left by the landslide was unstable, and there is a risk of a second landslide, Yang said. Let's see. The landslide was in an uninhabited area of Gansu province's Chichang County, about 220 kilometers, or 140 miles, south of Lanzhou, the provincial capital. So yeah, this is a story I'd heard on the BBC. We do try to cover bad weather, bad, natural happenings, disasters, when they happen. I heard this and I was like, all right, we'll go ahead and cover that for the day as well. Let's move on though to our next, obviously as well. Condolences to the families. People who lost their lives in this whole fucking situation. You're trying to do your job. You think, yeah, that this is a risk of that for sure, but then it fucking happens, and that's obviously very unfortunate, very sad. But let's move on to our next story from CBS News. U.S. Iran latest. U.S. launches more strikes against Iran after Trump says ceasefire is over. And this is just like a ticker update that we are not reading all of it. I just kind of want to get a little chunk out of it. The U.S. military launched a second night of strikes against Iranian targets late Wednesday, saying it was retaliating against Iran for attacking commercial ships earlier this week. So this has been an ongoing issue. It hasn't stopped. I still believe that this is over. Hey, you have to take the Strait of Hormuz out. You can't take the Oman way. You have to come past us. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. And then they're like, okay, well, the rules are the rules. And don't be surprised if we fucking shoot at you guys with a drone or, what have you. So you have these strikes happening, and essentially the U.S. is like, knock it off, stop it. And then we get into these tit for tats. I also think too, this is me just kind of doing a little bit of conjecture, speculation. We've had this whole, funeral for Khomeini. Tensions, are getting, amped up. People are mad. People are upset. You want some kind of retribution in this moment. Whether it's simply real or symbolic, I don't think it really matters. So I think you are going to rattle your saber a little bit. And I'm not trying to justify the actions here, but I think that might play something to that. And they're saying, hey, yeah, we know this ceasefire, we're risking it. We're rocking the boat here with this, but we said what we want. And if you're not going to deliver, then we're going to fucking do what we want. And then if you hit us, and we're going to hit you, and it's going to be back and forth, back and forth. So I guess we're just right back at it in a way. President Trump hinted at more strikes during a NATO summit earlier in the day. When asked about the ceasefire with Iran, he said that, as far as I'm concerned, it's over. He also said he's not sure he wants to make a deal with the Iranians, called Iranian leaders sick, and declared it a waste of time dealing with them. Oil prices soared Wednesday and stocks slumped after Mr. Trump said the ceasefire with Iran was over, with international benchmark Brent crude jumping almost 8% to trade over $80 a barrel. The main U.S. contract, West Texas Intermediate, was also up over 7% at $75 a barrel. I was so salty, but yet so happy that I filled up my gas tank. I think I think it was a day ago. It was yesterday, something like that, because I saw the prices go up from like $3.15 where I was at the Wawa to now they're $3.39. All because of this fucking bullshit and the fact that, like, they are still hanging on Trump's word. He still has to do that fucking verbal jujitsu bullshit. And if he chooses to let his hand go off the wheel and say, no, I want to get violent, I'm going to blow him back to the Stone Age. He gets back on that bullshit again. Well, then naturally the markets have nothing else to do but to react to that and the actions that are happening. And then you start seeing this fucking shit rock up. It's just crazy that it was within maybe like 24, 48 hours that happens. So I mean, I'm obviously hoping that this isn't an escalation, it isn't continuing. I mean, we're just getting into the fucking summer. Like, God fucking damn it. Yeah, I cannot handle gas at $4. Like, just fucking melt me on the street. I don't know. A little bit more here though. Kuwait, Bahrain indicate new round of missile drone strikes. Kuwait's military reported early Thursday morning local time that its air defenses were combating new missile and drone strikes, while Bahrain also indicated it was under attack. Bahrain's interior ministry said on X that it had activated its air raid sirens. The two countries did not specify the source of the threats, but Iranian counterattacks against U.S. allied Gulf states have closely followed previous strikes on Iran. Kuwait and Bahrain, I think it's Bahrain, whatever. Like several of the U.S. Gulf allies, have been repeatedly targeted by Iranian strikes since the start of the Iran war in February. Bit yada here, but this kind of makes me think back to the conversation I was having earlier with one of my coworkers. And I love this guy, cool guy, but I realized we had kind of started on one side of this conversation at the start of this shit in February, and we've gone he's gone to a different side of it over time, and like, hey, that's human nature. You do what you fucking want. You think what you fucking want. You think what you want to fucking feel on this shit. But to be like understanding that it's like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. In terms of like, we blew up the Ayatollah. We're now in a whole ass fucking war that we shouldn't fucking be in. The best thing we could do is stop this shit and just stop doing more violence. It's only gonna hurt us more in the long run. And like understanding that, but then having this logic from this other person's side saying, actually though, we should just bomb them. We actually just let Trump go off on this shit. Let him go crazy. And it's like, huh? Like, and this is not someone I feel like is like some kind of dyed in the wool, voted for Trump Republican. This is just someone who is more or less middle of the road, I feel like. But they have this kind of logic line of just like, actually, I'm sick of having to deal with this whole democracy thing. If they're not going to be Democrat, and it's like, what do you mean? Like, it's kind of like if you're only following the highlights, or like maybe from your favorite news source or whatever. I don't know. I guess you can wind up in the weeds on this shit, but to me, it just feels so clear as day that it's like, we are not the good guys in this situation, and definitely going further and being more belligerent, putting any kind of troops on the ground, doing any more like escalated strikes or anything like that, hitting Tehran proper. These are not things you want to fucking do. You're only going to make yourself worse on the world stage. You're only going to make the economy fucking worse. You're going to actually reignite a crisis. Why do it? Like, I feel like even your lizard brain should tell you that's bad, that that's a wrong call. But like, once again, I think people can just get so swept up in it that they say, actually, no, fuck it. And once again, it's a foreign affair. There's just something about it being not in your backyard, and you kind of just want to be like, it's not my problem. Or like, wrap this shit up. I don't care if it's violent, nasty, whatever. It's, once again, not in my backyard. I don't have to see it. Maybe if it's on the TV, I can change the channel. And you just don't think about it. But I don't know, call me fucking crazy. I'm not trying to be some bleeding heart, empath, woke ass motherfucker, but I just like, put yourself in those people's situations. Wouldn't you want to move and act like that if some fucking other power is coming over, telling you what to do, imposing on you, killing your leader? I don't know, man. This shit is crazy to me, and we are not the fucking good guys. And I'm not saying that to say that Iran or the IRGC or whatever the fuck are the good guys. No, we have two bad actors duking it out, and the only people who are losing are the world. It fucking sucks dick, okay? I just feel like losing the narrative though and saying like, fuck it, they should just get all blown up is crazy to even think. And I'm sure maybe there's a little bit of ha ha he he there or whatever, but like, it did throw me off, and I kind of said, okay, man, all right, man, you crazy, man. Because what do I say to that? Like, I've already laid out the narrative like I laid to you, and they go, whatever. And it's like, no, not whatever. Like, if there was role reversals, you would be begging for democracy, wouldn't we all? But diplomacy, whatever the fuck you want to call it in this modern age, I don't know. I know I'm getting weirdly hot about this, but it just kind of was a reminder to me that I'm like, I don't know. Like, just when I think that there are definitely, we should be optimistic, like, no, man, I just want people, I want to wake up and things just feel like, I don't know, 2012 or something again, and that would be nice. I don't fucking know. Anyway, we have one more story. And then we'll go ahead and close it out. This is a bit unfortunate, but I will say we're gonna give some kudos to the student pilot here. They definitely saved the day, quite literally. Anyway, let's take our last break, and then we'll close it out. I'm fuming. No, but I will say I always like talking about the news. Y'all know this, and it's also another thing too that I do like when people actually do sound off in the comments, in the whatever, they hit me up and we talk about stories. It means a lot to me. One, and there are times where it does change my perspective and changes my mind. Sometimes I'm not some resolute fucking expert here. Y'all fucking know this. I'm just a fucking dude who masters trash. I remember like the biggest example of this shit or of that would be the Karen Bass trial. I definitely came into that thinking like, I mean, yeah, I don't trust the cops either, but I don't think this lady's on the level. But then by the end of it and talking to other people, talking to my friends and shit and getting more of a lowdown on it, more details, I was like, no, cops are definitely fucked up here. And I don't think she did it. Like, I came out of that shit thinking differently. And I wouldn't have done that. I don't think I would have gotten there without doing the podcast and doing, like, I don't know, my due diligence and talking about it with people the way I do. So I don't know. I'm very thankful for this and the whole experience. Whatever. I don't know. Oh, okie dokie. Our last story comes from the Globe, but also Yahoo News because I've never fucked with the Globe before. Um, Leandro Bertazzo, a flight instructor, jumped to his death from a small plane in midair, leaving his 22-year-old student pilot to land the aircraft alone. The incident occurred on Monday, July 6th, over Toledo, Argentina. Argentina got a Toledo too? Well, damn. When Bertazzo exited the Cessna C-150 while airborne, according to an article the U.S. Sun published on Tuesday, July 7th. Um, ooh Bertazzo, 42, is believed to be a former commercial pilot in Chile. His body was located in a nearby field after a brief search, per the report. The unnamed student pilot, who held a license but had limited flying experience, described the moment in detail. He took his headphones off, arranged his belongings, including his mobile phone, took his seatbelt off, opened the door, which is very difficult to open, and jumped out, she said, according to the outlet. She alerted authorities immediately and safely landed the plane herself, per the report. That's G shit. Like, obviously, this is very dramatic, very sad. We're gonna be giving flowers and condolences. You know how we do. But, like, this is fucking happening, and she's like, okay, gotta fucking land the plane now, and lands the fucking plane. I would be pissing, shitting, crying, farting, praying. It's over. All of my knowledge that I have worked for and accumulated would have been gone out the window. Okay, so the fact that they just locked in and they fucking landed that shit solo. Hell yeah, I just gotta give like credit where it's fucking due there. Um, let's see. She was very shaken, but with complete professionalism, she flew the plane to the airfield and made a perfect landing. 10 out of 10. Said Eduardo Alvarez, director of Flying Parrot Cordoba, the flight school where Bartazzo worked, per the outlet. He's using this shit for promo, low key. So, I mean, whatever. We're all bad guys. He called her actions very clear, decisive, mature, and professional. According to the article, Alvarez remembered Bertazzo as someone who was always smiling and said no one had anticipated the tragedy. He took this tragic decision on board a plane with a person by his side. There's no way to think about it or understand it. The human mind is so complex, so treacherous. That's why what happened, he added, per the report. Per the outlet, at one point during the flight, Bertazzo reportedly turned to his student and told her, you know what to do. Keep moving forward. I'll be like, oof, chills. Local reports indicated Bertazzo had received neuropsychiatric treatment, though only close relatives were said to be aware before the tragedy, according to the U.S. Sun. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure if you do go through anything like that and it's reported, like, you can't fly a plane. If I'm not mistaken, I think it gets as deep as if you have ADHD. It is very hard for you to get your license and be able to fly a plane. Like, they do not fuck around with that. That's something I've kind of learned a little bit. I don't know, just gathering fun facts and shit. But I mean, once again, correct me if I'm fucking wrong there. Mea culpa is so. But obviously very sad for Bertazzo. Doing that, taking your own life, things like that, it's very tragic. It's very, it's sad whenever it happens. It leaves a wake. I can't imagine on top of it doing it that way where, you're definitely leaving your mark on your student, like right there, like with that. They're going to have to carry that. They had to literally fly the plane without you and land it. That's a lot. And I hate to say it too. I mean, not to put it on the victim, but that's selfish. That's so fucking selfish. And that's very fucked up in and of itself. But obviously, the act of doing that kind of thing is a very selfish thing. And I don't really want to get into the wages of, taking your own life and all that. And I do have a little hotline link. I guess I should reference that on my Logic shit. If you or someone you know is struggling or in a crisis, help is available. Call or text 988 or chat at 988lifeline.org. Because definitely, you know, making it to tomorrow is always a better thing. Moving forward is important. That's definitely the truest thing. But yes, once again, just to wrap up, obviously condolences to Bertazzo. Kudos to that fucking unnamed pilot. Like, hell yeah, GG's for landing the plane. Fuck yeah, let's fucking go. Um, but yeah, that's it. That's all I have for today. That's gonna be the episode. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. If you're always hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is always caring. All the stars are appreciated on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, but you don't have to do any of that. I really just appreciate you just hanging out with me, letting me yap to you, letting me whine, let me cry, let me celebrate whatever the fuck I'm feeling on the day or whatever. But yeah, I thank you for just hanging out with me. It's always nice. It's always a pleasure. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.